Hi, we are Group 1, which we're going to present the Indonesia billion-dollar field fraud Pertamina corruption crisis. And our group members are me, myself, Reynes, Shahir, Daniel, Raihan, Shabil, Wan, Danish, and Is. So our slide agenda will cover the introduction of the company background, the summary of the corruption case, and the people and department involved. And we will also cover how the corruption case is carried out, and also the financial operational impact on the Pertamina, investigation process, the legal outcome, and also the lesson that we learned from these corruption cases, and also the measure implemented. So next, let's take a look at the introduction, which the Pertamina is an Indonesia state-owned oil and gas company which founded in 1957, and it managed the country's energy resources, including petroleum and natural gas, through the exploration, production, refining, and distribution. As a national energy company, Pertamina played a central role in supplying the fuel to meet the domestic demand. So next, let's take a look at the role of the Pertamina. One of the example is oversee the exploration and production of the oil and gas in Indonesia, also refine the crude oil into the various petroleum products, also distribute the fuel for the transportation, industry and household, also expand it into the renewable energy sector, such as biofuel, geothermal, also solar. So, what is the importance of the Pertamina? So, the first thing is ensure the national energy security, also the stability for the fuel supply. The next one is contribute significantly for the Indonesia economy through the revenue and job creation. Last but not least, is a support for the Indonesia infrastructure development and the industrial growth.
Today I will be presenting a summary of a corruption case involving Pertamina, Indonesia's state-owned oil and gas company. I will explain the background of the company, what happened in the corruption case, who was involved, its impact, and also the lesson learned. So first of all, let me briefly explain about Pertamina. So Pertamina is Indonesia's state-owned and gas company. It plays very important role in supplying energy to the country, managing fuel distribution, and also contributing a large amount of revenue to the government. So because of Pertamina is responsible for national energy needs, any problem within the company can seriously affect the country and the people. So now let's move on to the corruption case itself. So this case involved corruption in oil and fuel procurement and management. Some company officials abused their authority for those and group, which means personal and group benefits. As a result of this action, the state suffered major financial loss and also public trust in the company was damaged. This made the case very serious at a national level. So next, who is involved in this case? So the people involved in this case is senior Pertamina executive, procurement official, external, and also contractor. Most of them were in department related to fuel import, trading, and procurement, where large amount of money and contracts were handled. So next, how did the corruption happen? So the corruption was carried out through manipulation of fuel procurement contracts, markups in pricing, meaning prices were increased unfairly, collusion with private company, abuse of authority and bribery. This action allows certain individuals to gain profit while causing losses to the company and the state. So next, because of the corruption, Pertamina faced serious impact. This include billion in state financial losses, increased fuel costs, and also damage to the company reputation. So this how corruption can affect not only finances but also public confidence. So next, let's talk about the investigation. So the case was investigated by the KPK, which Indonesia Corruption Eradication Commission. This investigation involve financial audit, tracking of transaction, evidence from document witness, and also bank record. So through this investigation have uncovered how the corruption was carried out. So next, as a result of the investigation, there were legal consequences. These include officials being charged with corruption, prison, prison sentence and fines, asset seizure, recovery of state financial loss. This show that corruption can lead to serious legal punishment. So the last one, let's look to the lesson and learn. After this case, several anti-corruption measures were implemented, such as stronger internal control, improved transparency in procurement, regular audit, and also ethics training and compliance system. So these measures are important to prevent similar cases in the future. In conclusion, the Pertamina corruption case show how abuse of power can cause serious harm to a company and the country. So it also highlight importance of transparency, accountability, and also strong anti-corruption system. That's all from me.
Following the corruption case, Pertamina has experienced a decline in market confidence. Investors, lenders, and the public have raised concern about transparency, governance, and risk management, particularly in oil trading and procurement activity. As a result, the company is now under greater scrutiny from regulation and stakeholders. At the same time, Pertamina faces the risk of additional costs. These include legal expenses, potential penalties, and the cost of implementing stronger compliance, audit, and governance system. While these costs may pressure short-term financial performance, they are necessary to restore credibility and prevent future losses. The corruption case has also affected Pertamina access to financing. Financial institutions may have company act as higher risk, which can lead to stricter borrowing conditions and higher financing costs. This may limit flexibility in funding energy and infrastructure projects. In response, Pertamina has initiated governance reforms. The company is strengthening internal controls, improving procurement procedure, enhancing audit mechanism, and increasing transparency across its operation. Although this reform may slow decision making in the short term, they are critical for long-term sustainability and accountability. Finally, the case has impacted partner relations. Some domestic and international partners have become more cautious, resulting in delays in negotiation and collaboration. However, by demonstrating stronger governance and transparency, Pertamina aims to rebuild trust and maintain long-term strategic partnership. In conclusion, while the corruption case has created significant financial and operational challenge, it has also become a turning point for reform. If managed activity, this change can help. If they manage this effectively, this change can help restore confidence, strengthen governance, and support Pertamina long-term stability.
Hi everyone. This slide shows the key individuals involved in the case. Several senior executives from Pertamina subsidiaries, especially Pertamina Patra Niaga, were implicated, with some directors
is named as suspects. Executives from Pertamina International Shipping were also allegedly involved in manipulating shipping and logistic contracts. In addition, private sector, oil traders, and intermediaries were accused of colluding with insiders to secure inflated contracts. Overall, the case involved both internal leaders and external parties. This slide focuses on the departments involved. The fuel import and procurement division was accused of manipulating tenders and pricing. The trading and marketing division allegedly misclassified lower grade fuel as premium. The logistics and shipping department was suspected of inflating transportation costs. Lastly, several Pertamina subsidiaries with contract autonomy were also involved. This shows the issue spanning multiple departments, not just one unit. These is all are the list of peoples involved in the corruption.
Now I will talk about how the corruption was carried out. First one, which is manipulating field procurement and import decision, rejecting or undervaluing domestic crude. Pertamina executive repeatedly rejected domestic crude oil from local producers, claiming it didn't meet refinery standard, despite evidence it did. This created a pretext to import crude oil and refine fuel instead, even though domestic supply was sufficient. As a result, Pertamina paid much higher prices for imported oil and fuel, benefiting connected import brokers and firms. Domestic crude producers were forced to export their oil rather than supply the domestic market. Second one, which is the fuel blending and mislabeling scheme. Buying lower grade fuel. Executively allegedly purchased low octane fuel, RO 90 or lower, but reported it as higher grade, RO 92 or Pertamax in official records. RO number denote fuel quality. RO 92 should be more expensive and higher performance than RO 90. Improper blending of fuel. The lower grade was mixed or blended at storage depot or partner facilities, not proper refinery sites. So it could be sold as RO 92. This related regulation that specify blending should occur at controlled refinery operation and that quality standard must be met. So for the third one, which is markups and kickback through private companies. Shell companies and beneficial owners, some import and logistic deals were allegedly steered through shell company registered offshore, allowing profits and fees to be funneled out of Indonesia and obscure. Private oil industry figures, example given owners of terminal facilities or shipping firms, were alleged to receive unlawful markups tied to these contracts. This markup acted as disguised kickback to insiders at Pertamina and their partners. For the final one, which is the weakened internal controls and regulatory oversight. Critics say Pertamina's internal governance was weak, facilitating lax procurement oversight, audit trails, insufficient compliance check. This made it easier for complex pricing or import scheme to go unnoticed internally for years.
Now, let's look at the legal outcomes. First of all, arrests and charges. Five executives at Pertamina subsidiaries and private sector actors were arrested and charged for importing fuel at inflated prices and defrauding the public from 2018 to 2023, with cases still proceeding in courts. Next, related verdicts. In a Pertamina-linked bribery case on land execution management from 2020 to 2022, a former court clerk received a 4-year prison sentence and a fine due to accepting bribes, illustrating outgoing judicial outcomes connected to Pertamina matters. Finally, ongoing proceedings. Suspect designations of subholding directors and a VP indicate active prosecution. Outcomes for the main crude or refinery case are evolving as investigations deepen and evidence is presented.
This slide explains the investigation process of the Pertamina corruption case.
The case began with early discoveries of irregularities in fuel procurement and oil import practice at Pertamina and its subsidiaries between 2018 and 2023. There was strong suspicion that senior officials violated regulatory obligations by prioritizing costly fuel import over domestic crude oil, which led to massive loss for the state. The Attorney General Office led the main investigation into crude oil and fuel import corruption. At the same time, the KPK investigated related cases, including the corruption in the digitalization of fuel stations. The Supreme Audit Agency or BPK support the investigation by conducting financial audit and calculate the total state loss. Next, this slide show the key action and finding of the investigation as well as the outcome. Investigator collect procurement contract, financial record, and electronic data, examine dozens of witnesses, including Pertamina executive, subsidiary staff, and private contractor. They also coordinate closely with the Supreme Audit Agency or BPK to confirm the amount of state financial loss. The investigation found that loss reached around 193.7 trillion rupiah due to manipulated fuel import and fuel optimization scheme carried out over several years. Investigators also uncovered violation of energy regulation, including failure to prioritize domestic crude oil, inflated shipping and procurement costs, and irregular blending practice. As a result, the investigation confirmed systematic corruption in Pertamina fuel procurement, leading to formal charge and trials in the Anti-Corruption Court.
The Pertamina scandals highlight important lessons on governance and corruption prevention in state-owned enterprises. First, strong oversight is essential, particularly in high-value procurements and fuel imports, where large financial transactions increase the risk of abuse. Second, transparency must be applied at every stage of decision-making to reduce opportunities for manipulation. Third, accountability of top management is critical as weak leadership controls can lead to misuse of power. The case also shows that early detection systems, such as effective monitoring and internal control, can significantly reduce state losses. Lastly, collaboration with independent anti-corruption bodies strengthen institutional integrity and public trust. In response, Pertamina implemented internal anti-corruption measures, including stricter procurement approval and monitoring, strengthened internal audits and compliance units, transparent digital procurement system, improved whistleblower protections, and mandatory ethics and anti-corruption trainings. At the national level, the Indonesian government strengthened oversight of SOEs by enforcing good corporate governance standards, expanding e-procurement, and increasing the authority of the Corruption Eradication Commission (KPK). In addition, regular audits by the Audit Boards of Indonesia (BPK) and implementation of the Government Internal Control System (SPIP) require reinforced accountability.